In the soft, enveloping twilight of his expansive garden, John, a middle-aged botanist, is found knee-deep among blossoming tulips and whispering willows. Widowed and living a life marked by solitude, John devotes his days to nurturing the garden once tended by his late wife Mary. Every brush of his hand against the velvety petals and every whisper to the blooming flora is a silent conversation with her. The garden, alive with the memories of their shared love, harbors his deep-seated longing and unresolved grief. Despite the tranquility of his surroundings, a persistent restlessness tugs at John's soul, a nagging feeling that Mary left behind more than just the garden. His days are a repeating loop of tender care for the plants and poignant memories of Mary, each moment steeped in love and loss. As the garden blooms, so too does the ache in his heart, a vivid reminder of the void she left behind. On a dew-fresh morning that carried the promise of spring, John, while rearranging some tools in the old creaky garden shed, stumbles upon a rusted tin box under a loose floorboard, a place he never thought to look. With hands trembling, partly from the chill and partly from a surge of unforeseen emotion, he pries it open. Inside, he finds a stack of weathered envelopes, each carefully sealed and marked with his name in Mary's familiar, flowing script. Curiosity mixed with a twinge of dread, John carefully opens the topmost envelope. It contains a letter, dated just weeks before her sudden illness took her away. As he reads, Mary's voice seems to echo through the shed, her words drawing a sharp breath from the air around him. The letter reveals a secret she had kept, an old love she thought she'd moved past, a relationship that, unbeknownst to John, had rekindled briefly during the last year of her life. The revelation shakes the foundation of John's memories. Each word from the letter blurs the lines between past and present, filling him with a tumultuous blend of betrayal and sorrow. The garden outside, once a sanctuary of shared dreams and love, now feels like a shadowed maze, each turn reminding him of what he thought was true, but perhaps never was. As the letter slips from his quivering hands, the shed, the garden, his entire world, seems to close in around him, darker and more uncertain than ever. In the days following the discovery, John is haunted by the contents of the letter. His once peaceful garden stirs with the rustle of hidden truths, and the plants whisper secrets in the breeze. The pain of Mary's hidden past gnaws at him, and he finds himself wandering through the garden at all hours, lost and unmoored. Driven by a mixture of grief and a need for closure, John decides to confront the past Mary spoke of in her letter. He arranges to meet the person who was once her lover, a man named Thomas, whose existence had shaken John's understanding of his marriage. The meeting takes place in a quiet cafe, away from the prying eyes of their small town. As John sits across from Thomas, the air thick with tension, he braces for the worst. Thomas, older and marked by time, speaks softly but with sincerity. He talks of Mary with respect and a palpable sadness, revealing a brief reconnection that ended as quickly as it began, filled more with past regrets than present feelings. He assures John that Mary's love for him was true and unwavering, despite the brief lapse brought about by nostalgia and loneliness. This conversation, intense and revealing, serves as the climax of John's emotional turmoil. As Thomas shares letters Mary wrote to him about her love for John and her guilt for the brief indiscretion, John's perspective begins to shift. The weight of his grief mixes with a budding understanding, and he feels the tight knot of betrayal in his heart begin to loosen. After his meeting with Thomas, John returns to the garden, the sun setting with a promise of renewal in the golden light. As he walks among the rows of flowers, each step feels slightly lighter. The garden, once a place of silent conversations with Mary, now resonates with the echoes of forgiveness and understanding. The plants seem to lean towards him, sharing in the solace of his unfolding peace. With a deep breath, John kneels by a patch of lilies, Mary's favorite, under the old oak tree. Here, he decides to plant new flowers, a symbol of his willingness to nurture new beginnings from the soil of past pains. As he digs into the earth, his thoughts are reflective, no longer shackled by the revelations of the letter, but enlightened by them. He understands that love, like his garden, requires patience, forgiveness, and the readiness to grow through seasons of joy and sorrow. The garden transforms in his eyes from a memorial of Mary's presence to a testament of their shared history, complex and deeply rooted, yet beautiful. John realizes that the garden doesn't just belong to his memories of Mary. It symbolizes his journey of healing and the resilient bloom of new hopes. As the stars begin to pierce the twilight sky, John feels a gentle closure. The garden is quiet, but it's a quietude that speaks of peace and a forward path. He smiles, knowing that every bloom and every new sprout carries both the legacy of old love and the promise of new life.